Hello, hello, hello. We are back for a match preview, and by we, I mean it is myself and Stephen Egan from Radio Cascadia and from Prost America. You guys have seen him multiple times. He's covered Portland, he's covered Vancouver, and I think he covered last year we didn't do Seattle because I was in Bolivia, but he would have covered Seattle then too. So you guys should be familiar with Steven. His podcast covers all three teams. So that's kind of the Cascadia region there. Say hello, Steven.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be back, Sam.
Yep. It's always a pleasure to have you. Just a little bit, I talk to Steven pretty frequently, when we're not doing this. So I enjoy seeing your smiling face. Anyway, so Seattle and Orlando have some similarities right now. We both have a lot of turnover and flux in our, front office, or not in our front office, with our coaching. We just hired Kreis. You guys just fired Siggy Schmidt. We just got a new player today. We traded away Darwin Surin. Sad to see Surin go. But moving forward, the move makes sense. It will free up an international roster spot at the end of the season if we decide not to keep Matias Perez. And, it kind of fills a position of need because we didn't really have a backup center attacking midfielder behind Kaká. We've just been slotting Molino in there and letting whoever play on the right. So I think that's good. And under Kreis, we're not really going to play with two box-to-box midfielders. So it was kind of a position where we could let somebody go. What do you know about Matias Perez, Steven?
Matias Perez Garcia was a very creative, talented playmaker for the San Jose Earthquakes. I've seen him burn the Sounders on more than one occasion, actually, including a delightful brace at CenturyLink Field last year, I believe it was. And so he's really a heck of a playmaker. His biggest concern in the Western Conference was his ability to handle physicality. I do fear for that a little bit again as he goes to the Eastern Conference, but he's probably top 10 in the league when it comes to passing ability, when it comes to creativity, and if he continues to develop, it's going to be a real steal for you guys.
All right, and I just touched on. Well, actually, I'm going to go real quick. So I just thought we played. I just want to close out any final thoughts that I would have on New England. I usually talk to Ron about this. So I thought in the first half of the New England game we were wide open. I thought it was back and forth, pretty good. In the second half of the New England game, obviously it got much better for us. We scored a bunch of goals. Molino had a brace on it. I'm really glad that we played well under Kreis in his first game. I thought we marked Nguyen well. Bendik had a couple big saves as usual. And then moving forward, I think Seattle has some playmakers that, New England doesn't really have with one of their new guys, Lario, and I'll let Steven talk about that. So Steven, can you talk about the two players that Seattle just brought in?
It might be more accurate to describe them as Nicolas Lodero and his handler, as Alvaro Fernandez is a good friend of the Uruguayan and played with him on the Uruguay national team a number of times. The two were also together playing club soccer before that. And so Alvaro Fernandez, I think, has primarily been brought in at 31 years of age to help Nicolas Lodero adapt to the league and adapt to America. Lodero himself is really special. Seattle paid a boatload of money for him to Boca Juniors, and the guy, led Uruguay at Copa America this summer and will lead the Seattle attack for a number of years to come. He made his first appearance for the club in starting against LA last weekend, and other than the 1-1 final result, virtually everything about that game was a positive for Seattle. Really good start for them to the Nicolas Lodero era, and to the Brian Schmetzer era as he steps in for Siggy Schmidt.
And what are your thoughts about Schmidt being fired?
Well, it's change after a long time, and I think that the club was clear that it wasn't going to be change just for the sake of change. I really do think that after the SKC match, Seattle lost 3-0 at SKC with heat index. It was 106 degrees, failed to register a shot until the 88th minute, possessed maybe 34% of the ball. was really an abysmal performance. Everybody looked out of ideas. Nobody looked particularly interested. And so the big damage came the week before, bowing out of Open Cup with a loss at LA and dropping a derby result at Portland. It was really just how abysmal they were at Kansas City that next weekend that was the final nail in the coffin for Ziggy Schmidt. And I don't really think anybody can have any complaints, just particularly given the fact that he didn't look like he had a tactical solution to what was going on.
Okay, and so we're going to catch them just the second game off of, because they've had a really bad start. They've had problems scoring. They've had problems defending. So we're going to catch them on their second game of a, I guess, interim coach. Have they said anything about who they're going to look to bring somebody in, or are they going to let this guy ride out the season, or how's that all going to work?
It looks pretty clear to me that it's going to be an off-season process for Seattle as far as filling the coaching vacancy. Schmetzer has an interim tag on him right now. It is worth noting that he played for the club in the 1970s, and he managed them for almost 8 years in the USL before Seattle came up to MLS. Then spent a number of years, all of Seattle's MLS existence, as their top assistant, and came very, very close to getting the FC Dallas job when it ended up being Oscar Pareja moving from Colorado down south. So I think that Brian Schmetzer has a legitimate chance to try and shake things up a little bit and see if he can't produce the results that get him a season in charge himself, hopefully without that interim tag. And I think that that's probably what the majority of Sounder fans are hoping will happen.
Okay, and so he's a Seattle guy. Do you think there's going to be a formation change or tactical change with Schmetzer?
There already has been. He went 4-2-3-1 instead of 4-3-3 against LA. He indicated that he wanted two defensive midfielders in front of his back four to help deal with the potent LA attack that consisted of Giovanni Dos Santos, Steven Gerrard, Robbie Keane, and others, including second-half substitute Sebastian Lletget, who grabbed a very, very disappointing equalizer for the Galaxy. It was really just about their only chance of the game, and it wiped out a lot of good work from Seattle. That being said, the 4-2-3-1 looked more dangerous than the 4-3-3 in almost every way for Seattle. It was Nelson Valdez up top alone. The DP forward has struggled really, really badly in all of his time with Seattle. Has really not done much for him, but looked a lot better playing in kind of a hold-up role, trying to feed the ball to Ladero and Dempsey beneath him. And it looked like there was something there with the 4-2-3-1. I know that Schmetzer said he built it specifically for LA, but I definitely think that there was something for the future there for them. And 4-3-3, I don't know that there is.
So what do you think we'll see this week with an away match for Seattle?
Playing away, I'd like to see the 4-2-3-1 get another trot out there. It does put four guys in very attacking positions. The front four is going to be Jordan Morris, Clint Dempsey, Nicholas Ladero, and Nelson Valdez. None of them are going to help you defensively much. That could be a concern for the Sounders, but I think that the coverage that Osvaldo Alonso and Christian Roldan are able to provide in the defensive midfield role, I think that they'll be all right at Orlando. And I think Schmetzer will see that, and I think that, 6 guys back there is the right number. And it looked like a good balance. Looked like good balance against LA, and I think it deserves another trot out.
Okay, and I thought that if there was ever going to be a week for a formation change, it was going to be last week, Kreis's first game. I thought, we were going to need to see who's going to work in his diamond midfield. We did not see that. We saw a Orlando City standard 4-2-3-1. So because of that, I think we're going to stay in a 4-2-3-1 this week, Steven. Across the back, I don't think we'll have any changes. We'll see Bowden at left back. Kreis has come out and said that he is done with the Breck Shea experiment at left back. So I think that's a positive for Orlando. And I think our center back pairings will stay the same in Mateos and Hines, even though I would like to see our loanee Aha play this week. I would love to see that, but I don't think it will happen. And on the right, we'll have Kevin Alston, who will continue to play there until we bring in a new right back, or until Ramos is healthy, or until we call Turner up from the B team. And the two defensive mids, I think we'll see the same, Carrasco and Notarino. Across the front three, I think we're going to see Perez Garcia, and I think we're going to see Kevin Molino, and I think we're going to see Kaká. I don't know if Perez Garcia can play on the left because I'm not that familiar with the player. If he can, I think he slots into that position very well. If he cannot, then I think Kaká will play on the left, and Perez Garcia will play in the middle, and obviously we'll play Laren up top. So how do you think? So we'll play a 4-2-3-1 versus your 4-2-3-1, and will be lots of 4-2-3-1ing. Anyway, so do you have any, thoughts or comments about how Orlando is going to match up versus Seattle or vice versa?
I don't know that the result will look the same, but it reminds me a little bit of the way that we talked about the Portland game down in Orlando earlier this season, where they were playing a 4-2-3-1 at the time as well. And you could kind of look at it and you could say, well, the talent's clearly in the front four for both of them. I guess we'll see who steps up. Seattle were fine defensively against LA. I mean, it was really one mistake from Brad Evans that led to the goal. I think that there were a lot of positives for them to take on that end as well. And certainly just a lot more dangerous in the attack. Jordan Morris probably really should have had 2 or 3 goals, missed a couple of tap-ins, had a ball cleared off the line after he rounded the goalkeeper, just did everything but score last Sunday. And you look at it and you say Molino, Kaká, Perez Garcia, Laren, and you match it up against Valdez, Dempsey, Ladero, Morris, and it's a toss-up for me. I can't tell you. I think it's whoever's going to perform on the day between those 2 groups of 4. That being said, I have to say I think that Seattle have finally built a little bit of momentum, finally took something that they can build on for the future with the LA result. And so I know I told you last year, maybe you were catching Seattle at the wrong time. And I have less to go on to say this year. But I have to say again, I think you might be catching Seattle at the wrong time.
Okay. Well, I know that we have been the master of the draw this year, and we did get a win last week, and we're still undefeated at home. So, we haven't really lost at home in over a year. So how do you, what makes you, do you want to go into predictions? Do you have any other general thoughts or comments that you'd maybe want to discuss? If you want to go into predictions, we can. I don't really have that much else.
Seattle's flying out early on Friday. I think that travel will be a factor. I think that that's a big deal. I don't know that Seattle is particularly accustomed to playing in as big a stadium as they're going to be playing in with people not cheering for them. It's a much younger roster this year, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Seattle cope with, A, the trip, and then B, the stadium conditions. And I think that that is going to be likely the biggest hang-up for them continuing, to build momentum here. I think that Nicolas Ladero, it rests on him. It's a big test for him. It's a long away trip against a physical Eastern Conference team, and you have to wonder, how he's going to hold up, what he's going to look like. There are a lot of questions for Seattle. There are a lot of positives from the LA game, and I think it could go either way. I think that the front 4 of Orlando could outclass Seattle, particularly at home. But I also believe that it's possible for Seattle to build on what they did last week. And if they can build just a little bit farther, there might be a breakthrough for them, just as there was against Orlando last year.
All right. Well, with your final thoughts, I have formulated my opinion for my score prediction. So I will start. I don't usually start, and it's probably more polite to let your guest go first. But in this case, I don't think you really mind. I don't think our defense has gotten any better trading away Saren. Not that he played last week anyway. I don't think our defense could. I think the best quote for our defense is to quote New York Jet, Bart Scott. Our defense is so soft, it couldn't stop a nosebleed. So, but with that said, I don't know that Seattle's defense is much better. I think this is going to be a total shootout. And I think because we're at home and because we have the home fans, we are going to string 2 wins together. And my prediction is 3-2 Orlando.
I think that that's as good a pick as any. I think that there will likely be goals as well. I think that Seattle, they're really waiting on Roman Torres to get back to see what their back 4 is going to look like long term, and they're just not there yet. He's not there yet. I don't see the Seattle backline being able to keep a clean sheet against such a talented Orlando front 4 with no Torino behind them. And really, that's there aren't a lot of people who play somebody anywhere in the front 6 on that end of it that's as talented as Osvaldo Alonso. And there you go with Nocerino, and I think that's a big factor.
Yeah, he's been terrible, though. He was good. Last week was his best game by a country mile.
I'm surprised to hear that for you guys. And with all the tampering and stuff, come on. If you're going to tamper, at least, let's at least get some value out of the guy, right?
Well, not to interrupt you, but I think that we would all love to see some value out of the guy. I don't think that I would very rarely like to speak on behalf of all Orlando City fans because we are polarizing groups. Everyone has their own opinion, but I think no matter who you are as an Orlando City fan, you want to get something out of Nocerino at this point because we've really gotten a whole lot of nothing. So I think we all want to see him improve. And last week he did improve a little bit in comparison to his prior performances. So
it literally is the exact same thing with Nelson Valdez in Seattle, who has just struggled beyond belief. $1.2 million for just about nothing this season. Anyways, I digress. I'm with you. I think it's a shootout. I think that Lodero gets his first goal for the Seattle Sounders, but I don't think that their back line can hold Orlando out. I have 2-2.
2-2. Well, statistically speaking, we are leading the league in draws, so that's probably a safe bet.
You know what? A road point would be perfectly good for Brian Schmetzer and his quest to drop the interim tag, and so I think we could make everybody happy here.
Well, no, a draw would not make everybody happy here, Stephen, but thank you. Anyways, Stephen, can you just want to tell everybody how they can find your podcast or your articles if they are looking for some Seattle, Portland, Vancouver information?
For sure. Thank you so much. You can check out my personal account at Stephen_Agen, A-G-E-N. I post Seattle Sounders news there mostly. At Radio_Cascadia is our podcast Twitter account. News from all across the region there. And you can find my writing under the Seattle tab of prostamerica.com. And I know I can find your Orlando City musings there as well under the Orlando tab. And thanks so much for having gotten a chance on air to thank you for joining us over at Prost and helping us out with our Orlando coverage. It's been really fantastic.
Yeah, I do what I can. I have missed a couple, but I think it's okay. And other than that, I'm happy to, put my thoughts down on paper once a week at the end of the game. So anyways, that's all for our time. We thank you guys for your time, and I really appreciate it. I don't always express my appreciation for you guys, the viewers, and I totally mean to. This channel is all about fans, and, I'm just like one of you. I just have a camera and a webcam and get people's opinions. So, but anyway, if you see me at the game, I will be out there this week. Last week, I was feeling really sick. It just came over from me at like 5 o'clock, like my stomach started hurting and I didn't make it. So I wish I would have, but I just needed the rest. But peace out.